At the end of the Megillah, we find a description of the observance of Purim, which is not shared by any other moed. V'hayomim ha'ele nizkarim v'na'asim. These days are to be remembered, and people have to do in the various mitzvahs. Then the pasuk says, "B'chol dor v'dor," every generation. "Mishpacha u'mishpacha," every family. "Medina u'medina," every country. "V'ir v'ir," every city. Why this absolute insistence that the Yemei Purim, which are Nizkarim v'Na'asim, every family, every city, every country, every generation. The Rambam at the end of Hilchos Megillah says two things. One is, Kol Sifrei HaNeviim, all of the prophets, the Nevi'im and the Ksuvim, Asidin Libota Limaisa Mashiach. When Mashiach comes, there will be no more Nevi'im and Ksuvim, with the exception of Megillas Esther. Harehi Kayemes, it will continue to exist and endure, Kechamisha Chumshei Torah. The only thing that we're going to have left of Nevi'im and Ksuvim is going to be the Megillah. And as the Alshich asks, one would think that Nevi'im was on a higher madrega than Megillah, which is at the most written with Ruach HaKodesh. And the way the Rambam compares it, Kayemes Kechamisha Chumshei Torah. The source is a Yerushalmi Megillah. And then the Rambam continues that all of the Moadim will be batel, with the exception of Purim. The Medrash. What is this about Purim and about the Megillah that is going to endure forever, even into Yemos HaMashiach, where other Divrei Nevi'im will not be there, and other Yom Tov we may not have Pesach, we definitely won't have Shavuos and Sukkot and everything else, but Purim we're going to have. What is it? And the Gemara in Gittin, the first parak, Divrei Shalom Ve'emes, discusses how the Megillah needs a sirtut. You have to draw lines to make sure that the writing is straight. Ka'amita shel Torah. And it says Megillah first. Divrei Shalom is Megillah. Ve'emes is Torah. What is so powerful about the Megillah and so important about Purim? That every other Yontiv and every other Sefer in Nevi'im and Ksuvim will not exist, but this has to endure forever. What is it? Another point that needs work is, everyone learned the Gemara in Shabbos, that although Kaf Aleim Har Kegigis, HaKadosh Baruch Hu forced Klal Yisrael to accept the Torah, Hadar Kiblua B'mei Achashverosh, they accepted the Torah again at the days of Achashverosh. So the first thing that Taisus asks over there, why did Hashem have to be Kaf Aleim Har Kegigis if before that they said Nasa v'Nishma? So they said they're going to do it. What was the point of the Kaf Aleim Har Kegigis? And how could it be that the Kabbalah of Klal Yisrael at the time of Achashverosh was at a greater level than that of at Har Sinai? We weren't exactly the greatest place during the Yemei Mordechai Esther. And Rashi over there points out, why did they accept it then? Me'avas hanes. And I saw Rav Moshe Shapira asks, Me'avas hanes? It wasn't that they loved the nes. They love the outcome of the nace. Nace itself, okay. They were very happy with the fact that the Achashverosh, who controlled the entire world, we would think today like the Russians, the Americans, and the Chinese would get together with all the Europeans to destroy the Jewish people. That was exactly what was going on then. Except there was one person who was in charge, who was Melech Bekipa, as the Gemara says. He ran the whole world. So they liked the results of the nace. It wasn't the nace that got them so excited. The next point that is worthwhile to think about is the fact that Mizmor Shir Chanukah Zabayis LeDavid, which we say every day before Baruch Shamar or after, depending on your minig, is described by Chazal in the Psikta. Rashi brings it in a few places as a reference to what happened in the days of Mordechai and Esther. There is nothing there that tells us in Mizmor Shir Chanukah Zabayis LeDavid, it's all about thanks. Aramimcha Hashem ki dilusani. Hashem Elokai shivati elecha v'tirpeini. Thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for your existence and for taking care of you. It's nice, but why is that specifically a description of what happened in the days of Mordechai and Esther? Another question over here is, the Gemara asks why we don't say Hallel on Purim. And the Gemara says, one teretz, Kriyasa zu Helela, reading the Megillah is like saying Hallel. What's wrong with also saying Hallel? The Haggadah Shel Pesach that we say on Seder night describes Yetzias Mitzrayim. And we still say Hallel as part of the remembrance of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So why is there a problem, according to this teretz of the Gemara, there's another teretz, but according to this teretz, why is there a problem of saying the Megillah and saying Hallel as well? Why does saying Hallel become unnecessary? And the next question that we have to think about is the Kriya on Purim. So Amalek comes and attacks Klal Yisrael. And after Klal Yisrael defeats them, Vayomer ki yod al keis ka milchama la Hashem ba'Amalek midardar. Hashem Yisbarach has a war with Amalek in every generation. Ask the Alshich, you have a war, so destroy them. What's the big deal? It's a problem for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to wipe out Amalek. It's not a problem. But he wants that war, clearly, because he's keeping them alive. We have a chiyuv mechias Amalek, whether it's every day or every year. If Amalek is a challenge to the Kisei Hashem, so let HaKadosh Baruch Hu rid the world of Amalek. And the other thing, as Rashi points out, Rashi cites Chazal, what does Yod al Keis Ka mean? Ein Hashem Shalom, there's no way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be known in this world. Vein HaKisei Shalom, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kingship of the world will never be complete. Ad Sheyimacha Shmo Shel Amalek. Now Amalek is, he's like not good. But we're so extreme. HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot be the melech of this world. Kol Zman Amalek is there. There's other nations that are not exactly lovable, but we don't say about them that there is no Kisei Hashem, there's no Malchus as long as they still exist. And the last question, and this is really the key, is that in Parsha Zachor, which we're going to learn on Shabbos, it describes when Amalek, what happened before, and it says Zachor eis asher asa l'cha Amalek b'derech b'tzeischem in Mitzrayim, asher korcha b'derech v'yizaniv b'cho kol ha'nechsholim acharecha. It's describing Klal Yisrael's matzav ata oyev yogeya v'lo yorei Elokim. As Rashi points out, lo yorei Elokim is a description of Amalek. He had a couple of other things going on in his life, but the Torah describes Amalek as the epitome of a lo yorei Elokim. Why is this relevant to the fact that they attacked the Jewish people? And why them? And if they didn't like the Jewish people, wait till after Maimed Har Sinai. Mara, Masa, Mariva happened before the Jews even received the Torah, and Amalek was right there taking advantage of the fact that the Jewish people were complaining. And that's the other point that we have to discuss here. Rashi points out, and if you learn the Rashi in the decree of the Megillah, decree of Purim rather, right before Amalek shows up, the Jewish people, Vayachanu b'refidim, ve'ein mayim lishtesa'am. There's no water. Now you got to remember there's 3 million people out there in the desert. There's no faucets, there's no irrigation, there are no pipes, there's nothing. There wasn't water for 3 million people. And they come to Moshe Rabbeinu and they say, Tanu lanu mayim v'nishta. Rather reasonable request. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, what are you testing Hashem for? Matanasanas Hashem. What are you talking about? I have kids. I have a wife and kids. There is no water. You got to drink. The minute you open your mouth, what are you starting up with Hashem for? A little extreme, you would think. And then it goes further. Vayitzma shama'am. The water ran out. They got thirsty. There's 3 million people in the desert and there is no water. And they're thirsty. And they come to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Hashem and he says, they're going to stone me. Kosh Baruch doesn't like this. Baruch says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Vayomer Hashem Moshe aver lifnei go pass by, and Rashi says, "Ure'eyim yiskalucha." Let's see if they're going to stone you. Why are you saying bad things? Lama hoitzeisa la'az al bonai. Moshe Rabbeinu was right. They did catch. But the main event is, as Rashi points out, when HaKadosh Baruch Vayikra Shema Makam Masa Mariva, Al Riv B'nei Yisrael is Hashem, Al Riv B'nei Yisrael, because the Jewish people fought against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Val Nasosam es Hashem Leimar, Hayesh Hashem B'kirbeinu Im Oyin. Is Hashem really with us? Yes or no? And immediately afterwards, as Rashi points out, Vayavay Amalek. So Amalek is the nation, as Rashi points out, that serves as the dog that will attack the child who's sitting on his father's shoulders. Rashi points this all out. And where's my dad? What do you mean, you're here? I gave you everything. Well, I'll put you down. And it's Amalek that comes. There are plenty of other nations that could have attacked the Jewish people. Dafka Amalek was the one that's attacking the Jewish people. So where are we going with all of this? And I believe that the basis for understanding all of this is the Chovos HaLevavos, his first shar after Shar Yichud Hashem is called Shar Bechina. And the purpose of Shar Bechina is to show that everything in the world and all phenomena attest to a creator who's benevolent, who is there to give goodness to people. That's Shar Bechina. And the next Shar is Shar Avodas Elokim. And Shar Avodas Elokim makes a fascinating statement, which you don't hear about so much. It's not a statement, it's the whole Shar is about it. That there are 2 ways of serving Hashem. The primary way is serving Hashem al yidei seichel, without Torah. I don't need Torah. You live in a world, everything you have, you're getting for free. There is clearly a creator, So, since there is a creator and you are a creation, and you are the constant beneficiary of his goodness, you should serve him, show your appreciation, and do what he tells you. That is Avodas Hashem al Yidei HaSeichel. And as the Chav Zavavos says, Chav Zavavos came a generation or two before the Rambam. Chav Zavavos, the Malach, told Rabbi Yosef Karo they should learn Chav Zavavos a half hour a day. And he says that Avodas Hashem, serving God that comes from a person's own intelligent faculties, is more important and is more praiseworthy than, and not only more praiseworthy, it is a higher form of Avodas Hashem than serving Hashem because the Torah says so. So why do you need the Torah? And he gives 7 reasons why Avodas Hashem coming from a person's seichel is more important than serving Hashem through Torah. However, you cannot manage with Avodas Hashem al yidei seichel alone. And he explains why. Because a human being is a bus of Adam, and people will do it for ulterior motives, whatever. But he explains why Avodas Hashem al yidei seichel is more important, and secondary to that, why you need Avodas Hashem al yidei Torah, because you cannot manage the seichel without that. But he says, one of his examples is a child. His seichel is not developed yet. So when he's younger, you give him the rules. But as he gets older, he could figure it out by themselves. And so it is with Klal Yisrael, many different reasons. But in other words, we see from here that the primary Avodas Hashem is Avodas Hashem al yidei seichel. I want to tell you something. These 4 walls, certainly the 4 walls upstairs, testify to that. How many young men came to Ohr Somayach? They didn't know what a Chumash was. They didn't know what a Gemara was. They didn't know what a Shulchan Aruch was. They didn't know anything. But they felt that they're living in a world which the seichel, a person's intelligence, requires him to understand that there's a creator, and this creator deserves to be appreciated and served. That is the hakdama to coming to learn here. And this is the message of Purim. If you notice, in the entire Megillah, it does not refer to the Jewish people as Yisrael. Not once. It's all Yehudim. Yehudim. And the reason, Yehudim, Jud, in various Latin languages, means a Jew. And it comes from the word Yehuda. And the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel says, in Bereshis, in the pasuk of Yehuda Atah Yeducha Echecha, and the Marsha and Saita says it a little more clearly, that the reason a person is called a Yehudi is because he is apam oide es Hashem. A person's willingness to appreciate and to admit, as Yehuda did, tzad kamimeni, to appreciate, to thank, to acknowledge, that is the definition of a Jew. And that is the story of Purim, that Klal Yisrael saw through 9 or 12 years, depending which parts of the Megillah we're referring to, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world, and everything that happens, all of the mundane events as well, the Shisha Chadashim, and this oil and in that oil, it's all part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan to run the world. It's about Yehudim. And this message, or this rather, Avodas Hashem al yidei seichel, is primary to the Avodah of a Jew in this world. It comes, as the Chav Zabava says, before the Torah. And therefore, when Klal Yisrael, even before Matan Torah said, Ayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu, in other words, they evinced a doubt if HaKadosh Baruch Hu As Rashi says, I'm giving you everything. Does my seichel tell me HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world and created me? You have a doubt? That's Amalek. Amalek, which Kabbalah say b'gematria suffix, the same numerical value. But that's not the point. The point is, even before Matan Torah, if your seichel is now not sure, you are attacked by the nation that represents a denial of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's existence in this world. Because as the Chayvus Avava says, and it's a Gemara in Shabbos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, Elokim Asa Kidei Sheyirul Milfanav. That purpose, Elokim Asa Sheyirul Milfanav, is a blessing in Koheles. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world so that people should acknowledge His presence. That's what Yiras Elokim is all about. You see Him, you feel Him, you fear Him. You do what He tells you, you appreciate Him. And that, Amalek, is the antithesis of that. So the minute the Jewish people said, Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu, Amalek is here. And therefore Amalek is going to stay until the end of time. Because that is the challenge until Mashiach comes. And that's why, as the Kedush Levi said, a person has to, the Mechias Amalek is in your own self. Our doubt that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world and runs our lives. That's why in the Megillah, the discussion is about Yehudim, because that was the issue there. Are we moideh that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, do we acknowledge, do we thank, do we appreciate? Does it require us to do things? The Avodas Hashem, serving God as a result of your seichel, that is the message of the Megillah, which opened it all up, and that is the Avodah of Purim. And that is why the Megillah, true, it's only Ksuvim. But without that, Torah, yes, teaches you Avodas Hashem. But you need the Avodas Hashem al-yidei seichel, and that is, which comes from a person's intelligence, thinking through that there must be a creator who is giving me everything I have, and therefore I have to appreciate him. And therefore the Avas Hanes is such, because they saw it. It's not the thank you. It's like a parent tells a child to do something and they don't do it, but when they serve them supper, they say, thank you for the supper. What's more important? Do what I tell you, don't say thank you. And we want to focus on the main event, which is the Avas Hanes. And perhaps that's why, in response to Tais's question, yes, Na'aseh v'nishma. They said Na'aseh v'nishma before they ever got to Har Sinai. They didn't know that there was a thing called Torah. But their seichel said, yes, I am going to be Mekabel, to serve Hashem on basis of my intelligence. But that wasn't enough. That was why Kaf Aleim Har Kagigas, HaKadosh Baruch Hu forced them to accept the Torah as well. They didn't know anything about the Torah. And that is why only later, in the days of Achashverosh, when they saw their seichel told them, they were not on the same madrega, they were not on the same level, but their seichel told them that this is something that I has to do, and if HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world and gives me everything I have, tells me I have to keep the Torah and I have to serve him based on the rules of the Torah, then I'm going to do that. And that is why Mizmor Shir Chanukas Habayis LeDavid, which is all about the awareness of Ishtarta Ponecha Yisin Nivhol. If you don't see and feel HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, you panic. And everything that you have in your life, you think that you're a good person, right? Like Haman, right? What does the pasuk say? Hashem emalta lahar riyois. I'm the man. Start the Ponecha, Yisinivol. The Hoidah, Leman Yizamercha Kavod V'lo Yidam Hashem Elekai La'olam Odeka. That is the Yehudi, the La'olam Odeka, that is the way we express the events of Purim in our lives. So Amalek came before Matan Torah, because Amalek's attack on Klal Yisrael has nothing to do with Torah. It has to do with his denial of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence in this world. And that is the challenge that's going to be until the Yemais HaMashiach. And the Rambam says this in the Hakdama to the Yad. There's a minyan ha-mitzvahs, not sefer ha-mitzvahs. And at the end he writes as follows. The last mitzvah he refers to. HaNevi'im in Bezdin Sivul Likras HaMegillah, they commanded us to read the Megillah by Nos in its right time. Kedei lahazkir shvachim shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to mention the praises of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chua Shasa Lanu, V'yakarev l'shaveinu, we just called out to him. We said, Ayesh Hashem b'kerbeinu, like Rav Masna says, Mi kavaya l'keinu b'chol kareinu elav. That is the message of Purim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there for us. We just have to call and recognize his presence. Kareinu doesn't only mean screaming. Kareinu means, Vayikra el Moshe, when you are calling somebody by name. That's Kriya. And what's the purpose? Kedei levarchai, ulahalalai, ukadei loidiyai, l'doros haboim, to tell the future generations, she'emes, it's true. Ma sheiftichanu b'Torah, what the Torah says in Parshas V'eschanan, and which it's a pasuk that says in the Tefillin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, describing the mutual relationship that we have with him. Ki mi goy gadol asher lo Elokim krovim elav. It's Elokim. Sometimes you think it's Teva. Sometimes you think it's Midas Hadin, but you have to know it's krovim elav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is close to you. What you're feeling is his closeness. Kavaya lekeinu b'chol kareinu elav. The minute we call to him, for whatever reason, b'chol kareinu elav. When we're calling out to him, Kriya, to you Hashem, then it's already Havaya. We will feel the chesed in everything that he does. That is the message of Purim, and that is why this Avodas Hashem that comes out of Dei HaSeichel will never, ever cease, even in the Yemais HaMashiach. And as the Rambam says in Hilchas Megillah at the end, Yemei HaPurim lo yivatlu, shenemar, and that is the end of that pasuk, that Purim is going to be nizkarim v'nasim b'chol dar v'dar, mishpacha mishpacha, medina medina, ir v'ir. Yemei HaPurim ha'ila, the Rambam brings, lo yavru mitoch ha'yehudim, it will never pass, v'zichron lo yosef mizarom, discussing, learning, keeping Purim will never cease and will always be a part of the Jewish reality, because this is a description of how we serve Hashem through our seichel. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu give all of us the koyach and the seichel to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to realize how good he is to us in everything we do, in everything we have. He's there for us, b'chol kareinu elav, whenever we call out to him.
Thank you for listening to this Ohr Somayach production. To find out more and to partner in our mission, please visit ohr.edu.